Spellstorm Miniatures is a show about tabletop war games, including War Machine and Hordes by Privateer Press, and we want to inspire you to play more. Hey, welcome back to Spellstorm Miniatures. This is episode number 17, and I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Dan.
I'm Chad.
And we want to welcome all of you to another exciting episode. Today we have an interesting topic that we wanted to share with you. And so, Dan, could you do us a favor and just tell us what are we going to be talking about today?
Yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about packing and shipping those models, or just kind of moving around with them on a long distance.
Yeah, that's right. As someone who spends a fair amount of time on eBay, Dan, you know how things ship well and don't ship well, don't you?
Yeah, some, and there's other sites as well besides that guy, but yeah.
I know, but eBay is the only one that I know of. Before we want to get started too far, just let's talk about some games. Have you guys played any games lately?
Sadly, not I.
Some non-War Machine games. I played a game of Song of Ice and Fire against Jeremy Brookshire, also known as Remy. He played his Night's Watch, and I played my Starks he kind of had some bad dice in a couple of places, and I played a strategic tactics card to prevent him from playing other tactics cards for the rest of the turn, and I did it pretty early in the activations, and so I was able to just kind of really hit him pretty hard against the Night's Watch, and those guys are kind of tough to remove, but I had a better handle on it the second time playing, so I felt like I had some good dice, but also like I felt like I had a better handle on the way that I was playing the game to my advantage, basically, and it felt pretty cool. So I like the list that I built, a 40-point list. I'm looking forward to playing it again in the future.
Nice.
Other than that, I started playing Magic Arena to kind of scratch my itch for playing standard Magic without having to spend a bunch of money to build a deck to play in tournaments that I'm not going to be able to play in. So
yeah, I'd rather spend money on miniatures anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at too. Like I'm trimming back my Magic collection quite a bit so that I can get into Song of Ice and Fire, more into Monster Apocalypse, and then I'm also planning on getting into Infernals once they get released. So
That's
I'm
cool.
trying to trim back and then dive deeper more into the miniatures game, just because I found, especially recently, I've been enjoying it a lot more than the Magic that I have been playing. So
That's cool. Yeah, on the subject of Song of Ice and Fire, Wes and I have gotten in a couple of games. Both of them have been 30 points.
okay,
And so he played Night's Watch, and I played my Free Folk, and we used the same scenario in both games. And the results were very different. In the first game, he won pretty decisively. He was just kind of annihilating my guys. I don't remember if he won. I don't remember if we finished the game and he won by victory points, or if he won by wiping me out. I actually don't remember that detail because that was a few games ago. But the most recent game, I came back with a revised list, and he came with pretty much the same list. And then I basically tried to use Free Folk's strength by having more units. So I removed the giants, and I just added another unit of trappers.
more dudes.
And more dudes. And
Dudes.
And it totally worked out in my favor. There was one scene where on my right flank, there was an objective, and he had claimed the objective on real early, and then I was able to get a free maneuver, and then eventually get in position to charge, and so he retreated one guy, and then he had another unit that was going to come in and then charge that unit, and so that I couldn't claim that objective, and he failed on his charge roll.
Oh no!
And so that was pretty deciding actually for that victory point. And so after round 2, I had 4 victory points, which means I was halfway to victory already after round 2. And then I basically went after round 3. I had 8 points at that point.
Yeah.
And so, because at 30 points, that's all you need. You need 8 victory points. And I was able to remove 1 unit thanks to some tactic cards.
Yeah.
But there was one dicey moment in turn 3 where he did the same kind of thing, where he he had a flank charge. He had one guy charged into a flank position, and so now my guy's outnumbered 2 units to 1, and he was able to play a tactics card that prevented me from playing any tactic cards for the rest of the turn.
Yeah, those ones are so strong.
But that was just for that specific unit, and so
okay.
so it wasn't as far sweeping as maybe the one that you played against
Yeah.
Remy. But what that meant was I couldn't actually reinforce that unit because in my hand was a reinforcement card, and I was like, oh, I need to play this, and I need to play it
Yeah.
now before he activates the second unit.
Yeah.
And so had he not done that, then I would have been smooth sailing. But he did it, so I couldn't. So I had to sweat out the dice roll when his second unit activated, and thankfully he didn't have enough hits to remove that unit. Because if he'd done that, then I wouldn't have won after turn 3. So
I haven't played with one of the scenarios yet. Remy and I mostly have been just trying to get a better handle on it because we both come from War Machine, and there's similarities in the miniatures games, but there's also like a lot of other different things. Like the tactics deck is basically like you're playing Grimkin with very, very active Arcana all the time because you can play cards in reaction to things that are happening, and you can do it a lot throughout the game. So much as as long as you've still got tactics cards in your hands, there's lots of very easy triggers. Like when a unit charges, when a unit fails a morale check, there's all sorts of different things.
Well, I would actually,
but it's very interesting.
I would actually make the comparison more to Company of Iron. Because you're cycling through, but instead of having a generic, I guess you have your generic cards like your standard 14 that are always be
always
part
in
of your deck, and then depending on what your commander is what the extra 6 cards will be. But you get to cycle through those. There's a hand limit. There's things like that are very Company of Iron-esque.
Yeah.
And they can trigger a lot of things. And I was able to get a free charge on his cav unit with my Spearwives, and that was pretty impactful too. And that was on the left flank.
Yeah.
So
I did notice going from 30 points to 40 points, having a second NCU character made a really big difference.
Yeah.
Because I had 5 units and 2 NCUs, so I had 7 activations.
That's great.
And Starks love a lot of maneuverability, so one of the first things that I almost always took was the maneuver, and then using that to get something up the field and then move around, and then taking that and then the extra attack. And there was one of the tactics cards I had where taking the maneuver one, like if you play it when a unit charges, if you have the maneuver position, it's considered as rolling a 6 on your charge. So what is it? You play it when a unit charges, and it generates 2 additional hits, 2 automatic hits. If you control the maneuver placement, it changes it to it's an automatic 6, and then it's automatic 2 wounds.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's vicious.
And doing that with like a unit of the Stark Cav that get a free maneuver at the beginning of the activation.
Yep.
Like, oh man,
That's vicious.
it was a good wombo combo, and I made Remy hurt with it pretty bad.
One of the things that I've realized with Free Folk is it's just dudes.
It's dudes,
and you don't care about them.
It's just
and if someone dies, their units are insignificant, so you don't get victory points for them.
Yeah.
And so I just throw dudes, and that's what happens. And honestly, I love playing
the
like
Grey
that,
Tide
so
in real free action.
it's real true. So, Dan, have you ever played a miniatures game that uses a tray?
No, not like units on the tray. No, I have not.
So one of the things that's really interesting is Song of Ice and Fire uses 2D terrain, just like War Machine. So that's a nice, easy, crossover. But having units on a tray changes the movement a little bit.
Yes, that's one thing that I've been noticing is like it really, really, because you have to maneuver, because you're moving the tray, you're twisting the tray, you're pivoting it very frequently, like with a maneuver or with charges, like. The charge action is you pivot, you move your speed, and then you pivot. Oh no, and then you make the dice roll. Yeah. But like when you're doing that, and then you're also combining it with like I was doing it a lot with my Cav, where I was like, okay, I get a free maneuver at the beginning of my activation, so I pivot, move, pivot again, and then I'm declaring a charge so that I can pivot again if I want to, and then I move, and then I make my dice roll for the successful charge. And the geometry of the dice tray and trying to get measurements at certain places and making sure that you've got space for them is very, very different. And it's very interesting. It's taken a little while to get a hold of, but playing a highly maneuverable faction, I think, has been helping the learning process because I'm doing it constantly.
Yeah.
Like I'm constantly moving stuff around, so I'm getting a better handle on it after 2 games.
So Dan, I had 7 units on the table and an NCU. So I had 8 activations. And we're playing on a 4x4 mat.
And that's only a 30-point game.
That's
Holy
only
crap.
a 30-point game. I was almost end-to-end in my deployment zone with my guys.
It's a 4x4 board.
It's a 4x4. So I don't have a lot of maneuver abilities, but I do have placement issues. And one of the fun things that I got to learn in my most recent game is order of activations in terms of, because you can trigger effects with your tactic cards, but then also your commander also gives certain things too, and your NCUs and things like that. And so you can actually stack a couple effects on top of each other, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
that was one of the big things I got to do against Remy. Was I was attacking with Eddard Stark's House Guard unit with him attached to it, and I played a tactics card on top of it. So the Stark Sworn Swords have an ability of it's a trigger ability called Stark's Fury. When you attack, you can declare to get a +1 to hit, and then the critical blows. So your 6s count as 2 strikes, but then you take D3 wounds at the end of it. But I stacked that on top of something else, and so I ended up getting. It was some crazy combo. I think it was extra attacks or something like that, or an out of activation attack, and I stacked Stark's Fury on top of it, and I rolled like 2 6s and like 5 other hits or something like that.
That's crazy.
In the attack, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's 2 4 and then 9 hits. Like, make your 9 armor checks.
Yeah, and my poor free folk, that would just annihilate a whole unit.
Yeah.
It's so. One of the things that Wes and I are doing is we're alternating between Song of Ice and Fire and then Frostgrave. And so another non-War Machine game I got to play is Frostgrave. And so we played, I think, the second scenario of the Thaw of the Lich Lord. And what's very interesting is Wes and I both selected the same kind of wizard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're both witches.
Okay.
And so that means some of our spells are also similar, which means our play style is very similar too. So we're pushing people and with the spell leap, and we're moving things, and so the first 2 games, the first 2 sessions in our campaign have really been based on really been even in terms of collecting the number of treasure, and so we're leveling up the same. I feel like in the future it's going to start to get real imbalanced real quick. One of the things that's interesting is his warband. He hired better personnel for his warband than I did, and so that I'm seeing that effect on the table.
Quality.
So, well, I was going for this sort of thematic thing, and it's just not as powerful. Like I hired a bard because
You were being fluffy, and he's being number crunchy.
No, he's being fine. It's fine. It works. But I'm gonna tell you, 2 bears to the face hurts, and so I don't have bears.
Trolls can tell you all about that.
See earlier discussion.
Yeah. So
Earlier off mic discussion.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm in a good spot right now. I'm getting a fair amount of games in. Especially with Wes, and then I've also got a fair amount of War Machine games in lately. Yeah. Are you guys getting any War Machine games in?
No.
Okay.
No. I've just been getting pumped for Monpok actually, because 3 of our guys that are normally Magic players have all started getting into Monster Apocalypse, and so like they've been really excited about it. I picked up Sky Sentinel about a week and a half ago, and then I picked up Kraken Octus when he came out last week. And I'm just like, I need to get a couple more units, and then I can play a 2-monster game.
Cool.
But I'm just really excited to... And I painted my Sky Sentinel in like a couple of hours, so he's looking super sweet.
Cool. Dan, you getting into Monpok?
No, I haven't. But then, like I said, the aliens look kind of cool. That Krakenopolis or whatever, I actually saw that model. I was like, that just looks fun.
Oh,
and
he's so
silly.
cool.
Do it.
He's so
Join
cool.
the dark side.
Join
Add
us.
that to my trade list, along with Song of Fire or Ice and Fire, apparently, and whatever else.
We
I think get some dragons in there, or some.
the
some
Targaryens
undead
are
king.
coming eventually.
So word on the street is they'll have dragons soon.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
What about the Night King?
you know what's funny?
need
Here's
a
the funny
zombie
part.
army.
They haven't
I
said
know.
what all the factions are going to be, and a lot of people are tossing around the idea of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how different it would be from Free Folk. Is the thing.
So I actually know nothing about the IP. I haven't read a single book, and I haven't watched a single episode. And so
Right?
I
know.
Here's the thing: I'm playing the game strictly based on its rules, and I have no attachment to any of the characters. And so it's very interesting to look at a game from that perspective versus because a lot of times what draws me into a game is the characters or the storyline.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that's why I love the Malifaux universe because it is so character driven.
Yeah.
And the stories are so essential. And so so I'm playing Song of Fire not because I know what's like I don't know this guy from that guy. I'm playing because I think the rules are awesome.
Yeah.
And it's such a sweet game.
The
It's
story
a pretty
universe,
game.
the story universe, and the two things that drew actually 3-ish things. The two things that drew me to it is one, just the universe because I love the universe. Like I've read the books and almost caught up on the show. I need to finish it. The second thing that is kind of tied into that is one of the units that I heard was coming out for the Lannisters is oh my gosh, it's Joffrey and the Kingsguard. And the Kingsguard, you can have them either as an entire unit together as themselves, in which case they all get all the different benefits, or you can break off the different Kingsguards and you can actually use them as different attachments to different units to buff them in different ways, which was really, really cool to me. And then the other thing that drew me to it was just the entire concept of the NCU board, because I think it's a fascinating addition to a miniatures game. And it's also a really, because it's like, I love the universe, it's a really cool way to see all those non-combatant, really important characters in the storyline still affect the battlefield in a certain way.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's actually an element that is very fascinating.
Yeah.
And so and like I said, even if you don't know who that person is, what they can do on the battlefield is amazing.
Yeah. So back to War Machine
I was
games.
gonna say we're gonna have to rename this this podcast episode.
Yeah, right.
Oh, you know what? We just like to play games, and
Yeah.
we like to talk about the games we play. It happens that we play a lot of games.
Yes.
And so
And
that's,
are really currently very excited about a couple of them. But
Yeah,
what
it's
War
true.
Machine games have you gotten in? Because I haven't played a War Machine game in a couple of weeks.
Oh, I've got some good ones in. So, I got one really good one in, I should say. So Oz and I went to Rune and Board last week, and remember Jordan, who we were introducing the game to. We texted each other and we're like, hey, we're gonna go, and so when we got there, I worked kind of late on Wednesday, and so I didn't get there at a reasonable hour. He was already there and was already set up and already playing Andrew.
Yes.
And it was a 10-point game, I think. And so I thought it was really cool that Andrew was playing Jordan, and two, I thought it was really cool that he was playing someone other than me or Oz, and he was doing it before we even got there. So we got there. Everyone was kind of all busy, like games were already in action and or people were painting. And so Oz and I kind of looked at each other and we're like, well, do you want to play each other? And so we did. We set up and we played each other. And I am working on Morgul 2 currently. And this is what I've discovered, because at Wednesday on Rune and Board, I assassinated Oz with the combination of the feat and mortality and some shenanigans. And then on Saturday, Oz and I got a couple games in. And in the first one, I assassinated Oz again with the feats and mortality and shenanigans. I think that Morgul 2 is the perfect anti-Troll Bloods caster, because I get rid of the tough, and I could just, whatever you want, I can go in there and then I can still get you, as long as I can hit his high defense, right? Which is the rub.
Yeah.
And but I rolled well and was able to do so. And so Oz, after having lost twice to Morgul 2 in the same week, wasn't very happy, and so I said, "Hey, want to hit reset?" And so we hit reset, and I said, "I'll change my list out." And so I removed Morgul 2 and I inserted Morgul 1, and we had a much better game. And I was playing hard on scenario, so it was the championship belt thing, whichever, the Pit 2 I think is his name.
Yeah,
and at the end, round 3, I guess, or 2, I was up 4-0 on scenario. And so it was looking like, I was playing hard on it, and it was looking like I was just going to win on the end of his turn. And so, which would have been top of 4 or something. And so he decides that he's going to just go all out and try for the assassination, and got it. And so
there you go.
So I did something silly with Morgul. So basically, he has a spell that allows a guy. So if an enemy model advances and ends its movement within 6 inches of, this model can move like 3 inches.
Admonition.
Admonition. Yeah. So basically, I put admonition on my Cyclops Shaman. And so what I should have done is either A, put admonition on myself.
Yes.
Or I should have casted Mullikarn's Animus and Repo 5 just to get out of dodge.
Yeah.
I did neither of those things, which left me with for 1 champ to get in, and that's all that it took. And so it was, but I had spent that previous turn. I had spent a lot of energy on trying to clear a unit of warders from a box, because I really wanted to play scenario, and I really wanted to pressure Oz, and I wanted to win on scenario, and so I just spent a lot of energy doing that, and it left me kind of depleted. I was camping nothing, and so he saw this Hail Mary opportunity. Good for him.
Yep.
And he did it. And so it put me in the dirt, and it was a much better game. So, and he obviously felt better after that one. So,
Yeah.
At least you didn't get snacked by a mauler.
yeah, you're right. This is the first time that I haven't.
You haven't died to a mauler.
The mauler has like a 10-0 record against me or something. It's silly. So those are my War Machine games. Mostly, I think I had one the week before, but I don't remember any details about it, so I'm not going to talk about it.
I was going to say, with admonition, quick pro tip, don't use it if the other person has a Toro. It's not going to wind up good for you.
Or at least don't walk towards that Toro.
Yeah.
Oh, what does a Toro do against
Has
it?
countercharge.
Oh,
So he moves in, and then you move back, and then he
charges
you.
Yeah, and then finishes their regular activation.
Oh, excellent. Good thing.
It is really funny, actually, though, to do it to. I mean, you can put admonition onto a bronze back, and you can trigger admonition and then trigger countercharge, and countercharge something back that's charging you.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, I could do
because
that.
you can stack the triggers.
Yeah.
Because I have a bronze back in my list. I love my bronze back.
Yeah.
Oh, he did some band damage too.
There you go.
Yeah. He was able to beat back one of the. He had 2 maulers, I think, and I was able to beat back one of them out of the zone, which allowed me to.
Yeah.
Which allowed me to clear that zone. So I didn't kill the mauler, but he was not scoring.
Yeah,
before
exactly.
contesting. So, yeah. Well, our main topic, I guess, is about packing and shipping, and I thought maybe we'd start with an antidote.
Yeah.
And so when I first started playing miniatures in any kind of meaningful way, I only bought them, from the store, and they would, I would buy them.
Same here.
Same here, right? And I would build them and prime them at least, and then play them, and then Guardian had a used bin, and I remember when I bought my first destroyer, like I had no idea what that jack was, and I had to ask all the War Machine guys, hey, what jack is this? Oh, I think that's a destroyer. Ooh, I don't have one of those. I'm going to buy it, right? And it was already assembled, and it was in the used bin, and it wasn't, it was much less than a full price destroyer, right? But then Dan started playing War Machine, and Dan, you introduced me to a whole new world of miniatures buying. Can you talk about a little bit about that?
Just searching for the bargain, right? It's always good, support the stores, especially the new stuff that comes out, stuff, try to get to there. But, sometimes if you're trying to really just get into it initially, and it's a good way to get a large army, and a lot of times is just finding lots. And, again, there's different sites between like eBay, Bartertown, even our COG Collective has a little secondhand thing, right? Or people selling in. So it's a great way. Some people get out of it, or they're just trading armies, right? That's kind of what I'm actually kind of fading more towards right now, is just doing trades, right? Like I have these models, you have those, let's trade. And so I know, and got in. Opened up some extra because there's like, hey, here's this guy has this lot and there's this extra stuff, you can use that, and that's split a lot.
So that's what happened. So one of the lots we split had some Legion models, which I was really excited about because that was an army that I knew that I eventually wanted to play. Another lot that we split was a Merc lot, and I got the Cephalix side of things because Cephalix. But it's a great way to get armies, or to get models, and and at least half of the work is done for you most of the time because they're assembled at least, and sometimes they're even nicely painted, right? One of the downsides, though, is when you order something and it arrives and you're very excited and you open it and all of a sudden just pieces and bits fall out of your package. Am I right?
A little destroyed,
I recently bought a very small lot on eBay, and it was very, very nicely priced. There were 9 models in it. 6 of them were broken when they arrived, and I was pretty upset about it. And it was all because of how the person packaged it. He put them all in a single sandwich Ziploc bag and put them in a small box and put a little bubble wrap around the bag. And that was it. And I was like, oh, inside they went squish, squish, squish. And so I've done a lot of repair work lately on my hobby desk. I'll talk about that later. But so what kinds of things do you look for when you're, because you have sold things on eBay too. So what kind of things do you think about when you are asking sellers about shipping, and what kinds of things do you think about as a seller when you ship? Let's unpack that conversation a little bit.
All right. I mean, you can break it down in all sorts of ways, and I've learned even this in the last couple of weeks, and that's what kind of inspired this too. Was one guy I can deal with a little bit, was the way it packed kind of impressed me, and the way I ended up shipping a larger lot kind of let me down because I listened to the guy at the post office more of like, just everything will just fit in this box. We'll mark fragile on it, and it'll be fine.
And then it wasn't fine.
Yeah, it wasn't fine. I felt bad, right?
Post office guy doesn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless he's a nerd. Ask him first if he's a nerd.
Yeah.
Get his credentials and then ask for advice.
I want to see your nerd card. And so that's one of the things. I mean, you can, obviously, if we're talking about shipping, there's, the USPS, UPS, FedEx. I don't really know anyone who actually personally does FedEx. But, UPS, a little more expensive. USPS, kind of the cheaper way, especially different flat rate boxes, everything like that. So one thing to consider is, what's your purpose? Where's it going? Sort of deal, right? I don't really do international shipping because I don't really want to mess with that. So I can't speak as much there, but domestically. The different services, different prices, different speeds, and as some people in the Discord have, mentioned, it's like just spend a few extra bucks sometimes, right? Or you get a. Was it a hooch hauler that came in pieces, or a Sea King?
I don't know.
I think Jason was complaining about one time. It's like, took like 2 weeks to get it, and it came all busted up. There's those considerations, and then obviously depending on what you're doing, who's gonna pay for that cost, right? Or what cost you want to get into. But anyway, those are kind of your basic ones. I even thought about it, like if you're moving, how do you even want to pack it if you move? I mean, if you have more than what your bags, which we've talked about, different storage for bags, right? On a previous episode. How do you want to pack those so you'll be safer? Now, granted, you'll be handling that, not some guy on a conveyor belt that's just tossing them left and right.
Yeah.
Trying to meet a quota for package checking.
Yeah.
Which something to keep in mind is Now, even if it has marked fragile, pretty sure it's just going to get tossed around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
My packing experiences have actually been pretty limited most of the time. I've never done eBay or Amazon or anything like that for model purchasing except for like new product. All of my reselling or all of my used product has been in person, usually locally or somebody else like that I knew nearby or something. So I've been fortunate that the stuff that has ever come in pieces I've always known ahead of time, and it's never been because of transport. It's been because they were in pieces from repairs that needed to happen that didn't happen. The only experience that I have with personally shipping models actually happened recently. It was Alex Cosma bought some of my Signar stuff, and I did the easier thing, which was I found a box that was going to fit, and I have some spare foam trays and stuff like that. And so I packed a lot of the models into the foam trays, and then I was also sending him a new in box. The trencher structure, the blockhouse. I was sending him a blockhouse, and so I just made sure everything was pressed nicely on top of the foam so that the stuff in the foam wouldn't come spilling out, and then packaged it all up. And he didn't complain, so I'm assuming that everything made it like in ship shape. So
Yeah.
And Alex, if you're listening, I don't care if you give me that foam tray back or not. I sent it with the full intention of not receiving it back. I don't care.
Well, and actually, that's a really good idea to think about too. Like everyone has those extra like foam just kind of laying
Or sometimes
around.
like pluck foam that was like your first pluck foam and you've upgraded into something else. Like,
Exactly. And so what I've seen people do a lot of times is they'll use the old trays that you're not currently using to transport. Yeah. So like I recently picked up a Legion lot, and and Danny had put it all in like a lot of the built stuff was already in a foam, and it's the same foam that fits the Army transport, which I happen to have an Army transport bag too. What am I doing? And and so but I also know that sometimes when someone is getting out of something, like when they're getting out of an Army type and they have foam that is designated for certain kinds of models,
if they bought a battle foam specifically for
they send
the
foam
Wolf Rider cavalry or something that's cut specifically to them.
Right. So like I recently sold my Khador Army, and I had 14 different specific trays that were for Khador models.
Yeah, Iron Fang Pikemen and the Ulans and then something else. Yeah,
and the Doom Reavers. I had the Doom Reaver foam.
Oh,
yeah. So the new owner, he's gonna be
wonderfully
he's
perfect fitted foam.
Well, and here's the thing, and what's funny is I knew that we were going to have this conversation today, and I know that recently I got those 9 models online that were busted. So like when I went through and packed all that Khador, I made sure that it was nice. I was like, I don't want these things to in from my front door to his car. I didn't want him to, and it wasn't, and they weren't going to in that short of a distance. But but at least I'm sure, but it made it easier. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
if I'm ever moving, which I've done quite a bit, I've moved almost every year since I moved out and started living on my own, is if it's ever models that I'm concerned that I can't just put in a flat open box and transport, if it's something delicate that I'm concerned about, what I'll do is I'll take a bag, unload some of the bag, and then go back and reload the bag with those models that I'm concerned about in the foam so that they have a safe transport.
Oh, nice.
But otherwise I've got like a couple of boxes that have they're just like flat open tops from something like a paper ream box or something, lid like that, and just kind of put them in there so that they might slide around, but then just put them in a front seat where they're going to be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing we're dealing with is the damage, right?
Yeah.
Is how do you get it? Because occasionally you're going to get an arm that breaks off, or something. Some of these models, right? They just they have weird
contact points. Are hopefully what you're hoping for in brakes,
right?
Because those are easily repairable. You don't want like a snapped piston arm or something like that.
Or a spear or a staff. You're just like, man, that's going to be a hassle, right?
Yeah.
So it's all that mitigation process, which, like I said, brings us into kind of the packing of it, right? Is like, then, okay, how do you pack, and kind of address some of those. But I know one of the boxes, right? Like getting a good box.
Yeah.
For me, like I said, I was trying to fit like this one lot in particular. But the dude was really cool, Lacquer Boy is what he goes on, a bar town there. And so Jim, he kind of helped give me some helpful hints on it, and I tried to follow some of those, like, get it close, get it packed, so it's they're not gonna shuffle around much, right? So they're not gonna slide around. I tried to get most of it into some bubble wrap, and then got in the box so that there wasn't much movement. But again, it's still, I think, just because of some of the like jacks and stuff, maybe the way they were sitting, they just got broken even with all the fragile. It's one of the things was like, go with a bigger box. Is even if it's tightly packed in there, maybe it's more expensive or it might be a little, but just go with the slightly bigger box. Yeah. That gives you that more room to maneuver and pad up.
The other issue could be that you don't know is maybe not only necessarily the box getting tossed, but something getting tossed on top of it.
Yeah.
Because if something else heavier on top, like lands on top of it, it may not seriously damage the box, but if it compresses one of the sides or the top of the box or something enough, like there's a chance that it squeezes on those tightly packed models enough that something pops.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is very important and is that when you're taking the extra precaution for making sure that things get shipped well and with as little damage as possible, communicating with the person who's receiving it, saying, "Hey, I did this, and this is why I made that choice," or whatever. And I think that can be very helpful, so that they know the intent is there for you to. That you're taking care for it.
Yeah.
And I think that it'll color their response to you in the unfortunate event if something does actually break, in shipping or something.
I mean, if you want to get really attentive about it, you could take pictures of like the way that you're packing it and send it and be like, "Hey, these are the precautions I took. This is how I packed it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, everything should make it in one piece. If anything's broken, like please understand that I'm not purposely sending you broken models or something like that."
Right. Exactly.
If you want to be totally transparent and
one of the things interesting too is on that eBay website is you have reviews. You have buyer and seller reviews, and if you're one of those persons who gives really good communication, then most likely the recipient is going to give you a better review, which is going to give you, Dan, you have a lot to say about that because that's one of the things that you check when you buy, don't you?
Yeah. Thanks. Well, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of those that can go on, and just if you're looking at the rating wise, check the person's rating, right? Is something to look into sometimes, right? And helpful to know if they're experienced in it or not. Now, again, eBay could be selling a bunch of stuff. I've sold a bunch of different things, so I'm not necessarily model selling wise, but if you go to a store or something, I know then the other ratings, like you leave comments like traded really good or stuff like that, right? And so you just kind of check those out and see what their feedback is. Make sure they're good. They have some good feedback and everything is always kind of helpful, and also gives you a good idea of how experienced they could be. And so that's definitely one thing you want to kind of check on. And even like I said, being clear in that communication, talk with them and say like, "Hey, this is what I plan on doing," or "Do you have any suggestions?" Like I was asking, like, "Hey, what, you probably do this more since your rating's higher. What's your suggestions for this?"
Yeah.
And in that too is being very clear on what you expect, and maybe what some of the pitfalls, like, "Oh, okay, hey, I won't be able to ship until 2 or 3 days, right?" or something. Let them know. And like I always followed up with like a tracking email, like, "Okay, hey, I got it sent today. Here's the tracking number."
Yeah.
There you go. And so with that too is also on another side, like I said, I've been making a lot of little trades lately. Part of the problem, I get to a new website and then I want to establish myself and I want to do things and I want to woohoo, this is cool. And one was like usually the lower rating ships first, right? So ship off, and it can be kind of scary, right? You're shipping off some of your stuff and you're just hoping the person on the other end is going to be good, right? And so far it's all been fine experiences. But one guy I had sent, and I thought we made the list because he sent me some pictures and hey, here's these built models, and here's the version of or pictures of the painted ones if they fit for you. I was like, okay, cool, yeah, And so I sent, and then, I got his package, and I kind of looked at it and went, oh, because he had multiples of one. It's like 2 that were built and painted and 1 new in box, and I was only getting 2 of them. And I thought because the picture had both units in there that I was getting the painted ones, and he sent one of the new in box ones. I was like, well, I guess I wasn't clear in my communication of what I expected. I said 2 of those units, and I got 2 of those units.
Yeah. I mean, it could be maybe that because you didn't specifically ask, it might have been easier for him to send the new in box and one of the other ones.
Precisely.
Like, it may have just worked out better in boxing that way.
Exactly. And that's one of those things. It's like, okay, and I'm not upset about it really because I'm like, well, that's on me. I didn't clearly say, hey, we're exactly doing this for this, but like I had sent them some stuff that I was like, this stuff's a little broken. It's already broken. I'm telling you ahead of time. So be aware that these do need repair, and was very clear in that. And what I've done too is like if there's already a broken piece, is put them in a separate bag. So that's like,
here's the bits bag.
Yeah, here's the bits. Everything that's broken. If something else is broken, that happened during shipping.
Yeah.
Please let me know. Give me some feedback on that. Let me learn too. Like maybe I didn't quite ship it right.
Yeah.
That's like this other lot that I picked up, and it was some Crucible Guard. So now I have some Crucible Guard army.
Congratulations on your new army.
And I already bought some Rocketmen too.
Which factions do you not own? I think that's going to be a shorter list.
Well, okay. Have in my
Honest
house,
confession.
You don't have to answer.
What do you not own?
want to play?
What do you not own?
Not own is the question.
Not own
Go
is the
Dan.
question.
What do you not own?
Kador.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to count Rhett too much because I have maybe a 30
You own
point.
Rhett models.
You own Rhett models.
I have
Moving on.
30 points of Rhett.
So you
All right.
do not own
You own
Kador.
Rhett.
Yes, I
What
do not
do you
own. I do not own Kador. I do not own Scorn.
Okay.
Grimkin.
Okay.
Let's see, Legion.
Oh.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
Okay.
So,
That's all I wanted to know.
So your not own list. It's pretty impressive there.
I will not own Infernals, right?
You and
I'm gonna
you
count
will.
that
You will. You and Brother Scott, man.
Yeah.
So I now only own 2. I have Legion and I have Scorn, and I guess Minions. You know, you can't kind of cap. You have to cap.
Like I said, in fairness, I'm trying to sell
So
3 or 4 more factions. So
I know it's totally fair. It's totally fair, but it's fun to poke while we can.
Yeah.
So poke project.
I have Signar, Circle, a little bit of Minions, the Minions that work for Circle, and some mercenary stuff.
Yeah.
Like I might have 1 or 2 mercenary casters, a handful of jacks, and then some solos and a couple of units, and that's it.
Yeah. So you and me are kind of similar.
I most of my mercenary stuff is actually all gone. I got rid of the majority of it a while ago.
Yeah.
Actually, I might have a buyer for my Signar stuff. So
there you go. Nice. I know I have a couple of your mercs.
Fuel Infernals.
Yeah.
But yeah, to bring it back around a little bit, I guess is like so the guy I got the Crucible Guard from, he packed really well. Like I said, that was kind of the inspiration of this. Like most of it that kind of little broken. He's like, oh yeah, I think that was already broke beforehand. Like Sylvestro's plume off his vial, and the infantry UA with the bannerment or the staff. The big, maybe that's the leader then or something. I don't know. I'm still learning the models, but yeah, the staff was broken off, and I mean, so not too bad, right? And a couple arms busted off, but again, little super glue, get those back going. But yeah, it was really. It came in like a much larger box than kind of I was expecting. Again, was a lot of it, and a lot of them again were almost in individual boxes. Okay. So you could toss some of those, or like heavily bubble wrapped. And one neat trick that I kind of didn't think about, I did a little bit, but I had gotten rid of like most of mine like the week before, is the mini crate boxes.
Oh yeah. And
the blister packs.
Yeah.
Because that only has a little sheet of foam. That's what they kind of come in, and that gives that little extra stiffness. So he was able to get like 2 or 3 models on most part crammed in those like blister packs with the foam. You put those, you can stack those. They kind of help protect themselves a little
that's really
bit.
clever.
Right? Yeah, and it kind of gets it doesn't take up that much more space, but then it just individually protects those guys a bit better because they're not sliding around.
Yeah.
It gives them a little bit of rigidity in case something else gets set on top of it.
Yep. And the plastic helps like just stiffen it up.
Yeah, exactly. And makes it a little more weather resistant too, I guess, if it ever
came to that.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully it's not, but I did ship some hero clicks back in the day where the guy said like the box like just came soaked. Like it actually came supposedly like in another bag. So like the post office recognized that it got soaked and put it like in a Ziploc bag.
Oh, wow.
And then like delivered it. Like
That's not on you.
Wow.
yeah, that's completely trash now. How did that like someone dump this thing in water? Anyway,
I mean,
Okay, so
fell off of a truck.
fell
and
off a
into
truck.
puddle.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
pretty much,
Yeah, so-
right? But yeah, the mini crate boxes, he was able to get a couple jacks in there.
Yeah.
You know, especially magnetized. Like
Oh, yeah,
it's nice
totally.
on the you
Yeah.
pop off the arms and like they fit pretty nicely
Oh,
in
yeah.
there. So it's just a lot of that, like just seeing the way it's packed, and then like an extra layer of like foam or not foam, but like bubble wrap and stuff around the outside of the
Yeah.
box, just to give again that extra little jostle. Like you guys said, the foam trays. I've had mixed dealings with those. Is like I think the custom ones might be better, but the generic, hey, this figure fits right here. Is I once got a shipment where they were in the trays. Well, they were probably shipped that way, but the box had probably got put up on its side or maybe flipped over.
And they all fell out.
Yeah, and so there's just pieces everywhere and hidden, and then there was like a hole in like a corner of the box. So I have a feeling that I couldn't find a few like arms and like maybe weapons that probably slid out that way. So again, kind of the mixed feeling on the foam, where it could probably be good and give that rigidity for sure, right? But don't just rely on tossing it in foam and tossing it in the bag. Maybe throw that bubble wrap around the foam so that the foam trays don't move.
Yeah.
And if they do tip
That's the
over,
trick, yeah.
it should just hit. If you have a foam topper, throw the foam topper on there too. I mean, I got tons of extra foam toppers,
Yeah.
which would have been another thing I guess I could have shoved in there, or the pluck foam. I also recently just got rid of most of my pluck foam extras from plucking out the trays, where it was like
I
literally
save
like
all
a
that.
Oh, yeah.
3 foot by 3 foot box of these plucked foams
Yeah.
that I could easily shove stuff in, but I had just like a week prior sent everything out because I was
Yeah.
like, I got room in my trash, it's out of here.
Yeah.
Oh,
One of those
that-
weird
whoops.
things of like, one of those weird things is you don't think about that would be great for shipping, because you could, like, even if you have a bunch of those pluck pieces, and then if you're also shipping in foam, that could be a good way to fill space on top of a jack or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, or if it's like a cav model, obviously the shape of the foam is going to be the size of the base and the overhang, but it doesn't do anything to account for the space between the model in the middle and the outside edge. You can put a couple of those pieces in there to help make it so it doesn't flop around in the box or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Like, even if you're laying your figure on the side, lay some underneath to like make a bed of it, and then put some on top, and you kind of sandwich them in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Brilliant.
And a good way to reuse stuff that would otherwise just be garbage.
Yeah.
At one point I had just a big stack of the little foam cuts from blister packs over the years and things like that. I held on to them from time to time for just not throwing them in the trash and just holding on to them for like transporting stuff.
I actually give my my blister packs back to Guardian Games.
Oh, really?
I give them to Max over there because they buy and sell used War Machine or Warhammer all the time. They don't do War Machine anymore, but Warhammer, and so he'll take them and he'll use them for that stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So I haven't been throwing away blisters for a long time because I've been reusing them that way.
Yeah,
So,
I've got it.
and he's
a
thankful
bunch
for it.
sitting
He
around.
uses it. So if ever, So this was a good conversation. As hobbyists, as collectors, as gamers, this is a topic that we don't really talk about a lot, and so it's nice to give it some service, give it some airtime, and hopefully our listeners will just take extra care next time they buy or sell something. And have to ship it, or even when they don't have to ship it and they get to deliver it locally.
Yeah.
How you pack matters, and you want to exercise the care for it, because the new owner will want to exercise the care for it. Right. So let's wrap up this episode by talking about what is on our hobby desk. Any of you guys want to go first? Chad, why don't you go first? What's on your hobby desk?
So I recently did a couple of commissioned D&D characters for someone that plays in a regular group, and I just recently did Sky Sentinel. So what I've got currently is I've got my Well of Orboros that needs some paint. I've got Kraken Noctis that I need to get primed. I've got my Strike Jets for Monster Apocalypse to paint up. is currently what I'm looking at. I still have some commission orc stuff that I haven't touched in a while that I need to get around to working on. I'm just daunted by it a little bit right now. But those are some of the things that I currently am looking at trying to get some paint on.
Yeah, that's good. How about you, Dan?
Excellent. I'm finishing up some trolls, Volca, Northkin Raiders, and Pig Lookouts. I'm kind of regretting the choice of like painting 2 units at the same time, even though they're using similar colors. It's just so dauntingly like paints. Like, okay, I'm going through this, and then I'm kind of using the same, but then they're different. Like, oh, it just takes me longer, right? When I can only paint in like 20, 30-minute increments.
Yeah.
It's like, there's one color here. So once I'm finished them up.
I was going to say, somebody posted something like that on one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of about how they're like, oh man, that moment when you regret doing batch painting. I'm like, as somebody that does that, like I totally understand, because it feels like you're not making any progress for such a long time, and then suddenly you're done, and you're like, oh, I feel better now.
Yes, that's kind of the point I'm getting to.
Kind of where you are exactly, is trying to do 20 guys all at the same time or whatever. And eventually you'll just sit down and you'll be like, oh, I have 2 colors to do, and then I'm done, and then 20 guys are done, and just put it away.
Yeah, they're down to like some shading. I already did the skin shade, and then the rest, and then highlights, clear coated. I already got the bases done because I'm doing them separately because I got some of the pre-done like resin type bases.
Oh, cool.
And did them up, and so they'll be ready to go soon. And then after that, I think Kogrima, I'm going to get her done.
Nice.
That's kind of my goal for the next couple weeks. And then I'll have like 2 troll lists if I can make lock and load, and I can play fully painted.
Dude, that's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah. I found out that Malifaux 3rd edition drops on June 28th.
Oh.
And so I've been putting together some models for a couple of different warbands. And I have some 3D terrain that I need to put together. I bought I think it's called, I can't remember the name of it now, but I think the line is Color Ed. So they're already pre-painted terrain, but you still have to assemble them. And so they kind of go together sort of, in that interlocking kind of way. And so I have 2 reasons for why I want to do it. I bought some pretty generic terrain that can be used both in my Malifaux campaign, but also in my 40K stuff.
Okay, cool.
And so I'm pretty excited about that. So I kind of have that, and and I still have some Drop Zone Commander stuff that my buddy is encouraging me to finish. And so the biggest thing for me was going through kind of reorganizing my hobby space. And so not having a Khador army to take up a lot of space has been very helpful. And so one of the things I'm trying to think about is putting in a desk and kind of making that space mine. And it's going to involve a little bit of rearranging and a little bit of convincing my wife that this is an okay decision.
Yeah.
She's great. But
sometimes you just need a little bit of reinforcement.
Yeah.
This is the smart move going forward.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend a lot of money on a desk, and really just a generic table would work. Just got to find one with the right leg spacing, I think, or kind of the dimension. So, but that's my hobby time, I guess. It's not very exciting the last couple of weeks.
Me either. Up until I painted these commission jobs and the Sky Sentinel, I hadn't painted anything in I think close to a month.
Yeah,
I've just been busy with other things.
Yeah. I've been definitely getting in more games. And I'm more game focused than I am hobby focused, and I kind of always have been. The hobby side of me, I really want to grow, and it'll happen. I mean, it's got to, right?
Yeah.
I'll get shamed into painting armies eventually.
I have some stuff to assemble today, actually.
Okay.
I'm doing some commission assembling for someone who doesn't like assembling models. And then I've also got, I have a bribe from my boss to paint his miniatures in the form of a Mortarion that he bought for me. Okay. So I have a Mortarion that I will be assembling and eventually painting this monstrosity of a giant model.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'm going to meet up with my buddy Steve for a War Machine game this week. and looking forward to that. And I think he's at 50 points, so it'll be, I think, his first 50-point game. And we'll see see if we can get another game in this week, and probably run Merkle 1 again, just because Merkle 2 is almost too easy. Well, I mean, it's not that.
Man.
It's not that. It's just the last 2 games were just with Merkle 2 were decidedly one-sided, and it was, I mean, it was weird. I've never really seen that kind of a lopside as the one who's the victor. I've been lopsided as the being in defeat, but it felt weird for me. So
Well, get your Wish Us kaiju list going, and
yeah, I got to get my kaiju list going.
Yeah.
So that's what do we got? That's episode number 17, and I want to thank all of our listeners, and we just put in a plug for us. If you like what we're doing, if you enjoy the conversation that we get to have a couple times a month, and the best way to help us out is by leaving us positive reviews, and it encourages other listeners to find us as well. And so thank you, everyone, for listening to episode 17 of Spellstorm Miniatures. This episode of Spellstorm Miniatures is brought to you by Hidden Forest Gaming. Hidden Forest Gaming provides game mats and terrain sets for all your gaming needs. Enter discount code SPELLSTORM10 to receive 10% off your next purchase.